I am now recording. It is 6 o'clock p.m. Today is the 31st of July, 2018. And the objective tonight, I want to review the practice test and go over it and get us started on on test two. I don't know what I'm going to do on the final. Most of the time, when I think about the final test coming up here next week, actually, I think of it as a way to raise your grade. We're not going to get a whole lot done between now and then, but I think of the final as a way that you can raise your grade. So if you're pretty much happy with what you've got, you don't have to take the final, is the way I'm going to work this. We'll talk more about that, and I'll put that in an announcement. So here's the practice test. And everybody there, Bowman, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, groovy. Using your favorite text, etc., the usual stuff. Test one, or problem one, says write a select query that returns 3 columns, the sum of the invoice line item amount from, and I tell you what table. I shouldn't have to tell you that table because invoice line item amount refers to the invoice line items table. The count of the lines that were summed and the invoice number. I should not have to tell you that you're going to have to group on the invoice number. From the invoices table, only return groups where there is more than one invoice number in the group, order by the count with the least appearing last. Not real important. These guys are fairly simple, that last one. Let's see. So what I'm going to have to, since I've got the invoices and the invoice line items, I'm going to have an inner join here. The invoices is joined to the invoice line items by the invoice ID. Let's go take a look at the solution. Number one, I think that this is, let me move this down and over there. Select the invoice number, the sum of the invoice line item amount, and the count of everything that got taken back. I would be looking for the count asterisk there, since I didn't tell you to count any particular thing, just how many rows did you return. I am looking for these two guys to be named from invoices as I inner join, looking for the word inner join invoice line items. Could have been the other way around. Could have been invoice line items, inner join invoices would have been the same thing on I.invoice ID. So we're going to have these guys named. I would have to say invoices.invoice ID, invoice line items.invoice ID. I prefer to alias them. If you don't, these don't have to be aliased, but then you'd have to group by invoice number, having count greater than 1, order by C. Now, down here on the order by, I can use the column alias, order by C descending, and essentially that's there are very few options in this one. I think I'm going to get 2 rows, I believe. Yes, I did get 2 rows. So where the count's greater than 1, in other words, invoice number having more than 1 invoice line item. So I only had 2 invoice numbers that had more than 1 invoice line item. And that may become important later on. Questions on number 1.
Well,
Go ahead.
For those of us,
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay, for those of us who have completed the test 2, I did all the problems. Did you give us a feedback? Because I think we did them all. I just want to know.
I'm sorry, Bob, I can just barely hear you. Could you get a little closer to your mic?
Okay, any better?
Yeah.
Okay, what I was saying that for those of us who did completely do the practice test, I did solve all the problems and myself, and I haven't even looked at your solution yet. Did we get a feedback if your line of thinking was when you?
I ran your solutions. Now, I did not check every one of them because grading the tests is somewhat difficult, but I could do that. I can open it and see what it looks like. No, I don't want solutions. Okay, select sum, count. Okay, so this is right. Because I didn't tell you what order they had to be in. Invoice line items, join invoices is fine. You did not alias these, so you had to type it out. That's this is absolute. That's perfect. I mean, you just typed some different lines than I did was all. You have exactly the same thing. Okay. I don't care for this use of this hash in there. Um, that is not standard SQL. Let's look at that.
Heading. That's the column heading.
Yes. All right, SQ returns invoice ID pairs that have the same account number. Also return the one. Okay. Now, this one's kind of tricky. So this one I'm looking for a self join in there. So use a self join. So I'm looking for that, and let me see what you have here from invoice line items as a. Okay, I would a dot account number as okay. So invoice line items as, yeah, this is going to just appear in the name, but most of them are not going to accept that. So we have A join B on okay is equal to the we need one more piece in here. We need do we need that? Did I say? Do I need a not null in there? No, I don't think I said it had to be null because invoice ID can't be null here. Okay, now if you execute this guy, we get, what, 12 rows?
Mm-hmm.
When that, I'm getting significantly more. I'm getting 3,776 rows. So mine is on enter join on account number 1 is equal to account number 2, where they're not equal. Let's look at back to yours. Oh, you're joining on invoice ID, and basically, if you read it,
But account number, we also have account number not equal.
right, that have the same account numbers. So you're going to join on the account number. So when you self-join, you're joining on the account numbers. So I agree, you got them there equal, but this one, let me see how on where you join on the account numbers and where the invoice IDs are different. Okay.
But I did the other way.
So you should be this way, where the account numbers are the same and where the invoice IDs are different. So the on would be where the account numbers are the same. And I typically, on really is a where. Where the invoice ID does not equal the B invoice ID. So they have to be joined on the account numbers and where the invoice IDs are not equal. So what this stops is that where they have the same account number. So if some row has account number 1, it has the same account number as itself. So find people who live in the same city. Well, if you look at me, I'm Stephen. I live in the same city as I do. So Stephen and Stephen would be a pair. Okay. This one right here, where the invoice ID B does not equal B, stops that. So let's see. Select. There's A and B. If you were to run this, I think you're going to get the 3,600. Yeah, you get 3,776. And notice that
but I thought you.
why are we getting 553? Hang on.
I thought you wanted different account numbers.
Well, I do. Why are you always showing 553 here? For example, if you go look at the one that I have here, where the account number, IL1 account number is equal to the account numbers, and the invoice numbers are different. A, B, you have the same number. Oh, okay, invoice ID. Yeah. So what we should be getting here is what we should be selecting is the invoice ID, and the invoice ID and let's see what else. And I guess that's enough to select. I don't think we need this one. Okay, so I'm going to select A.invoice ID and B.invoice ID. And so if I execute this, notice that I have 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6. Okay, the thing of it is that let's look at this. We have 1, 2. So 1, 2 is a pair. And if we scroll down to where we got, notice here I have 2, 1 is a pair. So I got 1, 2, and then I see 2, 1. I see 1, 18. I'm going to see 18 and 1 is a pair later. I can fix that by simply making this straight less than. Now I will get half of this number of rows returned, and it will do away with that issue of 1, 2, 2, 1. Now I have 1, 2, and 1 set, 1, 2, 1, 3. But when I go down to the 2's, I do not have 2, 1 because we've gotten rid of that. I'll send this back to you with the corrections made on it. Let me save. Okay. So anyway, I talk about that 1, 2, 2, 1. So with 1, 2 and 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, and then I get 2, 1 and 3, 1 also. And the way you get, instead of saying not equal to, you just, if you say straight less than or even greater than, it really doesn't matter, either one, then you will get only the pairs, only the ordered pairs. And that will get rid of those duplicates.
Okay. Okay.
Write an SQL query that returns a list of all vendor ID in the vendor table that have no associated rows. So this is a outer join, but I want you to do a subquery with a not exists. We did outer join in test 1. So this is a subquery, and I want you to use the not exists. Yes, it could be an outer join, and I get 89 rows. Let's see what you do. Number 3. Yes, that's perfect. Believe you're going to get 89 rows. Execute. I see it. Yes. Yeah, that's the way you do that. So select vendor ID from vendors where not exists. Select okay. Yeah, that's good. Where not exists. Select anything. What did I say on that? I said where not exists, select vendor ID. But I think actually yours is better. You say select everything. Where there is no row there, where 2 vendors are equal, yeah, yours is fine. In fact, I think yours is better. Now, what I would do with this is I typically like to see subqueries written like this, formatted like this. That's just my preference on them. I don't know, at this stage. Okay, let's see, this is number 4. So number 3, that's the way number 3 should look. Yours looks just like mine, except you say select star, and I said select vendor ID. So where vendor ID not in would be 1. I may have done that. Did I say? No, I said where not exists. So actually that's better because not exists is faster than to go in there and look to see if it's in there. Let's go look at number 4. Therefore, write a select query that groups the sum with their corresponding vendor name. So all that is is sum of the invoice total, vendor name. I got invoices. I got something coming from vendors. I'm going to have an inner join. I'm summing the invoice total. I'm going to have to order by the vendor name, and then order the set by the sum of the invoice totals in descending order. That's not that difficult. That's just busy work there. So basically, I'm looking for an inner join, and you've got a aggregate and a non-aggregate, meaning you have to have a group by. I don't think there is any having in this one. Now let's see what you got. So there's your non-aggregate, there's your aggregate, you give it a name. We have an inner join there, group by vendor name. Yeah, it's as good as it gets. I believe that pretty well matches the one that I have. So you have to have the group by here, because you have, what I'm looking for here is, I want you to see that you have a non-aggregate function and an aggregate. Therefore, the non-aggregate has to be grouped by. If there were two non-aggregates, they would both have to be in the group by. Okay, number five, I'm not going to do this to you on the test. I wouldn't throw a standard deviation at you. I don't know why I did on the practice test. Nothing wrong with seeing it. It's just another aggregate function. So a standard deviation just takes a whole bunch of numbers, and it has in it an average. So it has to calculate the average, and then what it asks is, how closely do you know what a standard deviation is, Byman?
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, for the benefit of those who may not have seen one, for example, if the average grade is, two people have an average grade of 75, or there are two grades that average to 75. One of them could be 100, the other one could be a 50. The average would be 75. Or one of them could be 76, the other one could be 74. The average would be 75. In the first example, they are more widely spread out than the second. The second set of numbers is tightly grouped about the average. Therefore, the first one would have a much larger standard deviation than the second one. Have I explained that correctly, Byman, do you think? Okay. Anyway, so the way we get the standard deviation gives me a measure of how well grouped they are about the average. And in a population of numbers that are obeying the what we call the normal distribution, I expect to find, 76% of my population within one standard deviation of the average. Within two standard deviations, I should find 90%, and within three standard deviations, I have virtually all of them. We say 99%, meaning that there can be an outlier out there, somebody that is just way outside the average, a long way away from it. Okay, the way we get that is, it's just the stddev function. Write an SQL query that will return the vendor name, invoice number, and invoice total. Return only rows where invoice total is greater than one standard deviation. So I want where values is greater than AVG plus stddev. And then the rest of the stuff. So it's a little bit challenging. Let's see what Byman did with it. Here we are. Select vendor name from vendor inner join. Very good. greater than all, select AVG plus STDDEV from in. That's great. That's great. I mean, that's exactly, if you looked at mine, it's exactly the same. Again, I would kibitz the formatting a little bit. I like to see these open parentheses lining up with the closing parentheses. I fuss over things like that. I don't know. Do you worry about that in Java and C, Byman?
Yeah, some teachers they want it properly line.
Yeah, well, if you're in my C class anyway, and when you have a curly bracket opening, I want it to match the curly bracket that's right below it to be its closing curly bracket. I don't like
It does help reading the code, though.
it really does. I find that it helps quite a bit. Anyway, I wouldn't do this to you. I wouldn't throw something like STDDEV at you on the test, but that's the way you would do it. And so anything that's above 1 standard deviation, these guys are the ones that if so for example, if your grade is greater than 1 standard deviation above the mean, those are probably the A's. That's where I expect to find my A grades, 1 standard deviation above the mean. 2 standard deviations above the means are my overachievers, and 3 standard deviations are 100 essentially. So one standard deviation would be A or high B. Next one is, what's the next one? Number 6, SQL return invoice number is less than the average. Okay, this one is a correlated subquery. Now, when I give you a correlated subquery, I'll usually tell you, this is a correlated subquery. When you have a correlated subquery, what kind of a thing are you looking for? Similar example is found in chapter 6. They're like self-joins, except the table aliased in the main query is used in the subquery. So a query that will return the vendor ID, invoice number, invoice total from the invoices table, where the invoice total is less than the average invoice total for that vendor ID. Now notice that this one does not have a table join in it. I don't have to join 2 tables because everything is coming from 1 table. That makes it kind of nice, and that makes it meet for a subquery. So let's go look at the subquery. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go look at mine. Here's mine, and select vendor ID from 1 table. Now, because it's coming from the invoices, I must alias this invoices table, even though there's only 1 of them. Where invoice total is greater than all, select AVG invoice total from invoices as 2. So here's 1 alias, here's 2, so this is like a self-join. Now here is what makes it a correlated subquery. I'm referencing I1 and I2 in there, and that's what makes this a correlated subquery. And then finally the order by, but this is the where the rubber meets the road right here. And I forget how many I got. What did I say? I don't remember. Let's execute it. I got 36 rows. Let's go see. Byman's solution is, I think Byman got more. Invoice from invoices as A. So he did where invoice total is less than all. I think you're backwards there, Byman. Yeah. I think you're less than. I think you have less than. Okay. Select average invoice total from invoices as B. This is right. I think this will give us 36 records. I think you're just backwards on that one. Yeah, there's your 36. You were just backwards here.
Okay.
So you're finding out where it's less than the average for that particular one. So you're answering sort of the same question, but the question was, wait, is less than the average. Well, it looks like you're right and I'm wrong. Okay. I was less than the average. Yeah, I don't know how I got fixated on that. Let me fix that in mine. We'll fix mine right now. What'd you get, 54 rows?
36.
Nah, I thought you got more than that. No, you got 54, right?
Yeah, I said 54.
Well, I think you're right. Yeah, you got 54 rows because it is less than, and mine said greater than. Let me change mine. My solution has 54, so you were right on that one, and I was wrong. Okay, mine was flipped. Yours wasn't. And save. Okay, number 7. Right. Oh, number 7 is pretty simple. Take the invoice date, take the payment date, cast both fields to varchar, concatenate them. This one, it doesn't really have much logic in it at all. So here they are. Here. Usually when I have something like this, what I'll do is, this is the way I would format it. Just so it's easy to see without coming up. And that's as good as it gets. That one's pretty simple. Any questions on this one? Basically, you just cast it as varchar, put a space between it, cast it as varchar, give it a name, and you're done with that. Number 7 drops out very quickly. I think I got the same number as you did. Should have. I got 102, you got 102. Yeah. Let's see, this next one says, Chup, how many records you get. This is going to return every record in the table. So if we go look at it, the modulo operator on page 97, very useful. And by the way, you do use that a lot in programming. Very useful in that it performs an integer division and gives you the remainder as an integer. Thus, 12 mod 5 gives me 2 because 12 divided by 5 has a remainder of 2. It also has a quotient of 2. So I probably should have said 12 mod 3 and 2, 3, and 4 don't work. How about 16 mod 5? It goes in 3 times and the remainder is 1. So 16 mod 5 would be 1. So the remainder would be 1. It's handy when I only want the part to the right of the decimal point. You divide by 1 and take only the remainder. For example, if you run invoice total mod 1, you just get the decimal only. Doesn't work like that in all programming languages because lots of times it would just give me a 0. But it only gives me back a 0. But anyway, it works this way in database, so it returns only the cents. It returns 0.33, but it's really dollars to be cents. We multiply it by 100, cast it to an integer. So write a select query that essentially it takes the floor of it, gets the dollars, and then takes mod by 1 and multiplies by 100 and gets the cents. So it is pretty easy. In theory. Let's see. So invoice ID, invoice total, cast the floor as int, mod by 1, multiply by 100 as int. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So that just looks just like mine. I have the same one as you do. So the only one I see that I need to change on the web page is that one where my inequality is backwards. Number 9, invoice number. Okay, paid in the last 30 days. You need to refresh your data at some point here. If you don't refresh your data and you've been using it all summer, you may not have any rows, I don't know, that were paid in the last 30 days, meaning between 0 and 30 days prior to today. Let's see what we have here. This is a date diff. And let's see, there's invoice number and payment date. Let's take a look at this. Date diff as test. Okay, where payment date is not null, and date diff. So okay, between 0 and 30. So subtracting today. So remember, we're going to subtract this way. So I take today's date, and I subtract the payment date. So I subtract like this, and this is going to be in the past. Let me see what I get here. I think yours is going to work. You use the idea of betweenness, and you get 30 rows, which is, I think that's what I got.
I verified the date in the last column.
Yeah. And if you look at what I chose to do on it, I said from invoices where date diff is greater than or equal to 0 and it was less than or equal to 0 and greater than or equal to -30, because I'm going the other direction than you are, and payment date is not valid. And I say there are other ways to code it correctly. And so you have a different way to code it that worked just fine. So it's nice to see 2 different ones. And as I recall, number 10 was not all that difficult. Okay.
Any problem with the date?
Say again?
It's difficult.
Which one? This one?
Yeah, like this one, you know, you had some other Mod 11 assignments where
the dates
before 30 days from today.
Those
are, you can't, sometimes your database is not up to date and you're not getting any result.
Well, bring your database up to date.
And then you don't know you're doing it right or wrong.
Well, run the create AP script, and that'll bring everything up to date.
Okay.
I mean, you know, yeah, I agree. If your database, that's one of the problems that we had that I had to fix there. The dates were, actually the dates came from 2012 when he wrote that script. So every semester I had to go in and correct all those dates, and I finally says, oh, the heck with that. And so I wrote a program that brought them up, and essentially it fixed them all. put them all effective today. So when you run the create AP, it refreshes, excuse me, it refreshes all of your dates. Any questions? Okay, last one is fairly simple logically. Basically, I have two delimiters. There is a pound sign, or maybe you could, I don't know, what do you call that, Byman?
Hashtag.
Hashtag, okay. I guess that goes back to the days of Twitter, huh? Okay, a hashtag, and then an @ sign. Actually, this hashtag has a formal name. Its formal name is an octothorpe, but I don't know why. But I want to have everything in between it. So this, the table is named nonsense, and the field name there is called meaningless phrase. And so what I want is this value right there, HIDY. I do not want pound sign. I do not want the @ sign. I don't want the hashtag or the @. I just want HIDY. Now, where do we start? Okay, to be searched is meaningless phrase. Where do we start? Well, I get the char index of the hashtag, and I'd better only just have one of them, or things are going to get kind of strange. So you have to make some assumptions about this. First of all, you have to have one. What if you don't have one? Well, it comes back as 0, and then you would get the whole string up to the @ sign. But that's okay, I suppose. Garbage in, garbage out. So I get this index of it. What is it? That would be, in the first one, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. It would be a 5. Okay. Now, where do I want to start there? I don't want to start at 5. I want to start at 6, 7, 8, 9. I want to start there. So I want to start at 6, so I add 1 to get by. How many characters? Okay, so where I start at the index of the hashtag plus 1. How many characters? I take the index of the @ subtract the index of the hash. Now, what does that give me? Okay, that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 minus 5 would give me 5, but I only want 4 characters. Now, this is what's known as an oboe, or off by 1, and I tell you to deal with that. In other words, if I just take the index of the @ subtract the index of the hash, I'm 1 too high, so I have to subtract 1 for it.
I did a little differently if you look at mine.
Okay, we'll look at yours. It's okay if you did it a little differently. I'm going to look at mine first. This is where do I start? I take the index of the hashtag and meaningless phrase plus 1. That's where it starts. To get how many, I take the index of the @ sign and meaningless phrase. I subtract the index of the hashtag and meaningless phrase, and then I subtract 1, and then that gives it to me. Well, I should have that table. Okay, I do. I don't know why it's highlighting it. Let's go see what Byman did there. And okay, well, that's good. You dropped the table, create the table, inserted some stuff. and select substring, meaningless phrase. Okay, well, looks to me like you're doing the same thing I did. Char index,
But I did.
meaningless phrase. Let's see, what is that? 1 that says start searching for it at 1, which is fine. +1. Okay, and now you're doing pattern index. So you say pattern index. Okay, yeah. You could have said char index here and it would have meant the same thing. Had you said char index and replaced these guys with single quotes, it would have been exactly the same thing as mine. So you're gonna, I think yours is gonna be correct also. And yeah, yours is correct. So basically everything's fine. There's just one there that the only one that I would correct was, what was it, number 2. Number 2 I corrected.
Okay.
Corrected a couple of corrected this one, but you were right and I was wrong. Just the one there, number 2 was the only thing that I saw that I would kibitz as not agreeing with the. I would not use the hashtag in the alias name. If you do use the hashtag in the alias name, then I would put it in a square bracket like that, wherever that. So if you choose to use it, put it in that. Now you can use anything you want to in there, but I don't care for them. So if you're going to use the weird characters in your aliases, put it in square brackets, and then you can have spaces or anything you want in there. It's not recommended that you do that. It's okay to have spaces and stuff, but the thing of it is, at the SQL level, where we are, I don't really care as long as I have some kind of a name to call it by later. So I don't care if you name it X and Y. Just give it a name, and later on, as it gets passed up the food chain, before it gets presented to the user, it's going to get a real pretty name added to it and at the web page. Right now, all I'm interested in doing is getting the data. Questions?
Okay, so you will send this file back to me, right?
I will do that. Let me save it.
Is this Dr. Smith?
Tis. Just a minute, I'm chasing a file right now. Who's this? I can't see your name, but let me.
It's Kazoka.
Okay, let me send this file back. There you go, Byman. Okay, Mr. Kazoka, what can I do for you today?
I was wondering if this whole explanation is it being recorded, so you know.
It is. You
know, we can go over.
Okay. We just went over Byman's paper. Do you want me to go over yours?
No, it's fine. I just wanted to go back to after the class is over to run it.
Well, I'm not in any big sweat. I don't have a practice test, Mr. Kazoka.
No, you don't, sir.
Okay. If you want to go ahead and turn in that practice test, I'll be happy to go over it with you.
Okay.
I mean, help me out there, and do the ones, or you can go over this recording, and what I would do with it is try them on your own first. So try each one. So I go through them in order. So for example, we go number 1, and then I look at Byman's paper, and if everything's fine, then I go look at what I did, and then number 2, and then I make some corrections, and then look at it and why I made those corrections. Number 3, we go over his look, and then we look at mine, and we see how they're similar, or in many cases he took a different approach than I did, and there's many ways that he can have a correct answer, and it just be a little bit different from mine. It doesn't make it wrong. So take a look at it first. You try to do it, and then take a look at it, and then I would go ahead with what you tried to do, and then we'll talk about it.
There's been I've been having a problem. I've been behind in the class, and when I catch up with one area, then you move on to the next, and I catch up with this one. So it's been quite a challenge. But
well, we're not moving really very fast right now. I've been out with a medical emergency in the family, so
I'm sorry.
We're not just we're not blazing along. I have not assigned test 2. I'm going to assign test 2 at this time. Let's get to it. On the modules, let's put test 2 up. Practice test 2. So test 2 is now published. Test 2 edit. So now you can see test 2, and let's put a date on it. When should I make this due?
I was thinking 11:59 on the 3rd.
Okay, well, Tuesday, 1, 2, 3, that would be Friday. If I made it due on the 3rd,
or whatever you.
Yeah, I think I'll go. Let me go in there. 1, 2, 3. Well, we're getting. I'm gonna make it due on Saturday at 11:59. I'm going to leave it open a date, but it will be late. I'm going to leave it open until Sunday, but it'll be there'll be a late penalty. So I'm going to give it an extra day. Let's see, what is the domain? The test contains 10 items. You will complete 8. You choose which 8, each item. During the test, a query. Okay, 2 hours. You were saying, how long did it take you to complete the practice test, Byman?
I mean, did you read everybody? Nobody was able to do it within 2 hours.
I'm aware of that. So what should I give you?
8 problems. Okay.
You got 8 problems.
There's another student there.
You get to choose which 8 you're going to do out of 10. What if I gave you 4 hours?
Yeah, that'll definitely work.
Okay. Late submission. So you have not accessed the test until you follow the link. And then when, here's the link. When you hit that link, that's when your time starts. Okay. I'm going to save it. Okay, now I want to see it, and I'm going to look at it from your perspective. So I'm in my student view now, so I'm seeing it as you see it. Test 1, subqueries, data types. Okay, test 2. So test 2 is here. So I'm going to open it. So it's okay. So I haven't started test 2 yet. So read down. I'm about to begin following the link, and there I hit the link. And test 2. Okay. Okay. So I have test 2 there.
Which one is the last day of the class?
The last day of the class can be found on the Collin College website, and I believe that the I believe that our last day of class is going to be Thursday, the 9th.
Okay.
Of August. I would check the webpage. So that gives us 1, 2. So we have 3 more meetings, and then we will have the the final will be available. The final is, in my opinion, it is usually a way to improve your grade. So the final is not just a killer in terms of difficulty. So usually students find that they do better, they make a better grade on the on it when they take the final. But if you have an A and you don't feel like taking the final, you don't need to.
Now,
Questions?
If you take the final and it lowers your grade, will you reject the final or will you keep the final?
I'm not going to let you have it both ways. You know, my job is getting you through this class.
Okay.
And to that end, I practically bend over backwards. But I'm not going to say that, you know, you get to take it and you make an F on the final and that won't hurt your grade. So if you have an A in the class, just don't take the final.
Okay.
I will go through it. I will take time to talk to people on that. But right now I'm going to say that so the final will be optional, and it will be a way that your grade can come up, and probably will. Other questions? Kazuko, you still here?
Are we going to go through all the modules that is listed on the syllabus?
I seriously doubt it. There's a couple there that I want to get to. The others are more, the rest of them after this are more advanced modules, and they are not exactly SQL. I do want to get to creating views, and let's see, which ones do I want to make sure we do?
Triggers?
No, we're not going to do triggers. Let's see, database design is a good one. Using database views. I will probably do I'll probably do 13 and 14. I'll have to look and see the selected topics. This one is the database design. Is an important one, but it's also a long one. It's got quite a few, you know, normalization, very theoretical. I just have to see. Let's get through test 2. And so that's the one that we're doing. We will have class on Thursday. So I will be available to answer questions about it. So maybe look, if you guys want to, you can take a look at the test prior to that. If you have some questions on test 2, I will take them during class on Thursday. Or let's put it this way: I will. Can you guys come if I were to start class a little earlier?
Yes, well, I can.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll start class about 15, 20 minutes early, just for questions on test 2. I'm not going to give you any answers.
But are you saying that we can look at the test?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do that. 4-hour time period.
If you look at the test in 4 hours.
I know. I'll give you an announcement. I might relax that. Okay. Anyway, let's see. We're about at, goodness, it's after 7. My wife's calling me for supper.
Okay.
Other questions?
So,
go ahead.
I wasn't clear on how many early for questions like Byron was asking. Are we? You said, I don't know. I'm lost. Are we going to look at the test and then do it?
Yeah, I'm kind of lost there too, Mr. Kasoka.
Then also one last question, sir, is I have two questions actually.
Okay.
Your videos that you've been recording, all of them from the start of the class. If I wanted to, because even after the class, they're useful. So how could I have them? And then the other question is, are you going to? Because I had resubmitted test 1. Are you still grading?
I will. I want you to try to do well on test 2, and then I will take a look at test 1. And I will take it into consideration. See, as I said, my job is getting you through this class. And that's my goal in life right now, is getting you through the class. As a first question of the videos, you can get the videos if you want to subscribe to my channel on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
You can get them there after class. There are hundreds of them there because I've been recording them. But if you go for the dates of the summer dates, you'll get only the summer classes. If you just take all of them that I've ever put up there, you'll get lots and lots of videos. There'll be hours of them. But if you just limit yourself to the dates of the summer class, then you can go through them in order, however you want to do it. Do you know where they are? On you know how to get to them on Canvas?
I mean, once I just tune into your YouTube, I mean, I just have to. It's just a matter of subscribing to it, right?
Right. You can go to YouTube and it's just look up, S.W. Smith at collin.edu.
Oh, okay.
So it's just my email. They're there under that. The simplest way to find them here is to go to scroll all the way down to the last module where it says recorded lectures. And here you find them. There they all are.
Okay.
And so they're all linked in there.
Okay.
Oh, why that one's not 724 wasn't published. And let me check that one, make sure it's okay. If you this link is a YouTube link, so when you click on that, it So that's anyway. You can view them here, but simplest way is well, one way is by simply by going to YouTube and looking up because they all have dates in the title.
Okay.
This one is one that I recorded earlier.
Okay, Professor Smith. That lecture 21 and 26 weren't there earlier. You just added them?
21 and 26.
I just saw 21 and 26 and our
21 would be a Saturday.
Okay.
26 was when I was out. Are you looking at YouTube or are you looking at Canvas?
What am I looking at not here?
Are you looking at YouTube or Canvas?
I'm looking at my screen that you have put up.
I don't see 21. Oh, 621.
No. There was a screen that changed, I think. No.
I haven't changed anything here. I got 621 and 626.
Okay. All right. What I was trying to say, when I went to look for the lecture because I wasn't able to listen to your yesterday's, all I saw, the last one was the 19th.
19th, yes, that was the last one I put up. I did a recording, but unfortunately I had forgotten to hit record. That's one of the problems of this guy. If unless I hit the record button up here, it doesn't record. And sometimes I sit here and talk for 45 minutes and I have forgotten to record.
Oh.
And that's terrible. And I think that's what I did. I said I was going to record yesterday, and I did. And then I recorded, and I was ready to post it. And oh, wait a minute, there's nothing there. Okay, I'm going to sign off for tonight.
One other question.
Okay,
module 11, that assignment. I think there's a module 11.
Module 11 is chapter 9. Yes. It's not a real difficult one.
Yeah. And I submitted that. I just wondered.
Okay. I haven't graded it yet because it's due today.
Oh.
I haven't graded any of module 11 yet.
Okay.
I'm caught up to module 11, but not, if I look at, I open this, I've got a module 8 from somebody. I have a module 10. So module 8, I think that was just turned in. That's Rashad. Yeah, he just turned it in yesterday. So I was caught up as of yesterday. And so module 11, if I were to go to module, these aren't due, so I have it from Stephen Day. There's yours. So yes, I have yours.
Okay. Can we get it before the test?
Yes. Okay. I think I will probably relax the 4 hours. Let me think about it. I'd like for people to listen to this recording and to go over the review before they take the test. So I'm going to put out a so if you attend class, meaning if you come to class and are here for the lecture, then I will relax the 4 hours. How about that?
Yeah,
sounds good.
Fair enough.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Today, every day is that you think?
Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm gonna go eat.
Have a good night, Dr. Smith.
Take care, guys. And let's see. I'm about to About to end the meeting, and good night to all.